everyone, my name is Aaron. Thanks for coming back to North Florida Gun Guy. Right up top, I'd like to thank Danny for letting me have this opportunity to do this video for his channel. I thought it would be fun to do a comparison between the first and second contract Siamese Mausers and a G98 style rifle. Now there are some videos already on YouTube, Forgotten Weapons is one, that explain some of the features of a Siamese Mauser, but I haven't found any that show the details between the first and second contract, which is something that a collector might run into out in the field. I might probably confuse them, actually, if they did. And I'd also just thought it would be fun to see what the difference is between a contract Mauser made in Japan for the Siamese Army and a G98 style rifle would be. First thing up top, I need to make a couple explanations. I'd like to thank Patrick Hernandez. He's the co-author of a book of Siamese Mausers for most of the information that I'm going to be explaining to everybody today. I'll put a picture up of his book here now, and it was a limited print run, so it's very difficult to find a copy. He's talked about doing another print run in the future, but I'm not sure right now. We're going to do this comparison with a very close approximate, a 1909 Peruvian Mauser, which to a layperson, i.e. most people that don't know very specifics, it's not that much different. There's differences internally with the barrel and the ring, some measurement differences, but the features is what we're looking at here. So that's what we're going to be comparing them today. So this will be later on. Alright everybody, these are my two Siamese Mausers, and they're both in 8x52R, first and second contract, and we'll explain the differences between the two contracts. They made some improvements that they noticed from the first contract, which mostly had to do with just the way the Japanese arsenal made these rifles and the materials they had to end up using. Moving our way down the rifles, there won't be much differences, as you can see, or any differences, actually. They look actually identical until you get right here. As you can see, this one being the second contract, this one being the first, this receiver tang is gigantic, where this one doesn't exist at all. And the explanation I was given for that is, these are one-piece stocks, as you can see, and the Japanese hardwood that they used, because this was produced in Japan, didn't stand up to the abuse as much as the Thai and the Siamese government would have liked. So in the second contract they added this receiver tang. It's on the bottom and the top, and it's actually part of the stock. It's not part of the receiver. So you can see it has a screw which screws it into itself, and the receiver is actually a separate assembly, you can see. So you could swap out older style receivers into this and back and forth. So I'm assuming that's why they did it that way. It made it easier to transition between the two styles. Another easy way to tell the difference between the two of them, as you can see, this screw is set at a very odd angle to get to on the butt plate, and this one is set at a 90-degree angle right on top. It is extremely difficult, personal experience talking here, to get this out and put it back in. It is not to put it on that. So, obvious reasons why those were done. Alright, the final difference between the first and second contract will be that the second contract will have a two-piece stock. Just like the Arisaka, the Type 99, it'll have this very similar style stock to that. Well, as you can see, mine clearly does not. It's just like the first contract, so what gives? Well, not only did they increase the tang on the stock, they also went to the two-piece stock because of the issues they were having with the one-piece stocks cracking. So those also had issues. They decided eventually to just replace it with Thai hardwood stocks, which the majority of the second contracts you'll find now have the one-piece stock. If you do find a two-piece stock, don't think of it as wrong. It is correct. Technically, neither are wrong, but... Alright, the final difference between the two contracts I can't actually show you. As you can see, here's the proof mark for the Nagoya Arsenal, stacked cannonballs. And there's another one here. It looks like a U symbol. And this one is the same. Well, for a second contract, the symbol would have looked more like an upside-down question mark. So what gives? Well, these went through re-arsenaled multiple times, and it's very unlikely you'll find any of them with their original matching parts. So what has happened here is an example of they've taken a first contract receiver and put it in a second contract style stock with the receiver tangs and with the added tang on the butt plate. So as you can see, that was a smart idea. It allowed them to swap receivers as needed. So that leaves us with 6 versions of these two rifles, because they were originally in caliber 8x50R, and that's 8x50R Siamese. It's different from 8x50R Labella and 8x50R Austro-Hungarian. And these were both converted, so you have 2 in 8x50, 2 in 8x52R, and you'll find second contracts in two-piece stocks and one-piece stocks like mine. So that leaves you with 6 total different variations to be able to get. Now here are all 3 side by side. Second contract on the left, our G98 approximate in the middle, and the first contract on the right. First thing to notice is the sights on the Siamese Mausers are attached on a band on the barrel, versus the G98 style sight is attached directly to the barrel. Let's go back and look and see at the bayonet lug and the front band. As you can see, the front band on the Siamese Mauser is very small. That is it. That's the whole band. Versus this beast of a band with a stacking hook. So as you can see, very big difference. Also, the length of the lug is much longer on the G98 style. Moving back, you can see that the rear band is almost identical. I would say maybe not exact same size, but definitely the same exact idea, along with the sling point. Pretty much identical between all 3. Going a little further back, we'll look at the sights. So you can see the roller coaster sight, iconic, easy to see the difference. These sights on the Siamese Mausers, very flat, very different. And as you can see, the characters are cut off here. That's what happened when they converted them from 8x50 to 8x52. When they did that conversion, they cut down on this rear sight base, so the characters were shaved off in the process. So, obvious difference between the two rifles. This dust cover, not there on the G98. This is obviously something from a Arisaka style design. This is very similar to the Type 30 carbine from Japan. It has a little tab here. You pull up, locks in place, pull up, locks back in place. See the hole where it locks into place. It's the same exact on the first contract to the second contract. So, removal of the bolt, pretty straightforward, just like any other. Straightforward latch right there, that's it. My 1909, slightly different. It's got a lip curved lip up there. It's actually a little difficult to grip onto sometimes, and I actually prefer this style because it's just got a little tab here and pull open. Easy. Now here are the bolts side by side. As you can see, not much difference between the two. Obviously they're trying to copy the Mauser action because they did the license for it. Obvious difference between the two of them. This was a rimmed cartridge, so it has an extractor that needs to fit over the ridge. Oh, the rim, excuse me. This one does not, so it does not. The only really differences in this assembly is some of the tolerances are different sizes, but it takes down the exact same way. I'm not going to do it right now. I actually watched a K98 takedown video to see how to take mine for originally. It's the exact same disassembly and reassembly. Alright, with the bolts out, you can see with the first contract here in the 1909 here, why they did this receiver the way they did off the original design. It's pretty much an exact copy. This latch is a little different here, but other than that, it's pretty much a straightforward exact copy. The same with this back here. It's at an odd angle. It's not super easy to get a screw into. The next difference we see for the Siamese Mauser versus our G98 approximate is the magazine release. So this one has a button that you depress and this whole thing pops out. Underneath, this on the Siamese Mauser is right here. It just pops right out. It's underneath a pretty decent amount of pressure, and that's it. So the final difference, as you all can clearly see, is that there's a little trapdoor spot in the back of the Siamese Mausers. Now, most people would think that that would be like a cleaning kit or some kind of accessory of some kind. Well, it was. It was a front sight cover and muzzle protector. Unfortunately, my rifles do not have one in them. That's pretty common, but neat little feature nonetheless. I wanted to show everybody some things to look out for when collecting these. Obviously we talked about the two-piece stock on the second contract. Very desirable feature to have. Now, something to look out for, and something that I've noticed on nearly all of the ones that I've seen online and in my TUG specifically, these handguards are extremely prone to cracking. Mine has split at the front and the rear. Thankfully not on my second contract at the rear, but it is starting to at the front. I am not sure why exactly. I don't know if it's the wood or what, but almost every one that I've seen online does have a split in it. Something to look out for. Secondly, as you can see, I have no cleaning rod. There's a hole, but there isn't one. Very common. They're very difficult to find one with a cleaning rod that is not a reproduction. However, there's a gentleman that does make reproductions, so if you do want to find one, you can find one fairly cheaply. So the third and final thing to look out for is pitting. Unfortunately, these rifles were used and not kept in an arsenal in the best of conditions, and there's significant pitting on some of them underneath the wood line. This is my first contract. It did have some pretty significant pitting. Nothing that I'm too worried about as far as shooting, but it is something to look out for, and it's pretty common in these rifles. Alright guys, I hope this was informational, and I'm hoping to have a video soon of shooting these two. I'm in the middle of converting 4570 brass to 8x52R so that I can reload and produce ammunition for these wonderful rifles. There is commercially available ammo from Buffalo Arms. However, it is the same process as mine. They are converting 4570 brass, and it is extremely expensive. Maybe one day somebody will produce ammunition for these that will make them a little bit more viable, but right now they are in somewhat unknown gym, and you can find them fairly cheaply. Both of mine were purchased for right around $300, and that was this year, 2017. So as you can see, it's still possible to buy a Mauser for $300. Well, have a good day.